Okay, so today we're talking about absolute values, and I want to start with just the most basic absolute value. Absolute value of negative 8 equals what? 8. And that is supposed to be something in context of distance. The ACT actually in their list of 200 things you have to know, one of them is understand that absolute value has to do with a distance. Well, what the heck is the distance? Yes?
Distance from 0.
The distance from 0. That's really what they're asking you when they do an absolute value is how far away is that from 0? Okay. So, when I do this, what does that mean then? In context of distance. Crocker.
Left 8.
Hold on. I'm talking about this now.
Oh, wow.
That's different, so change your thinking around because it's a completely different question. Absolute value of x equals 4. Yes?
Distance of x to 0 is 4.
Okay. You might be saying that right, but how about if I put this in here, and this might help us, like, explain it better. Would you agree x and x minus 0 are the exact same thing? Okay. Now, what are the two answers? Positive and negative 4. So the question in terms of distance is, what are the things that are 4 away from 0? Does that make sense to you? It's what are the things that are 4 away from 0? And they are 4 and? Negative 4. Okay. See this? Oh, this is just a quick reminder, tennis ball lab. On Monday, hopefully it'll be decent weather like it is right now. If it's raining, we won't do it, but even if it's kind of crisp outside, we're still going outside and toss a ball in the air. We're going to throw the ball up in the air. You don't have to be a super athlete or anything. If you are, awesome. We'll be able to see who can throw it the highest. You know how we can tell who can throw it the highest? By how long it's in the air. Do you get somebody who, if you both throw it straight up, the person who's in the air the longest threw it the highest. And so actually that's the lab. Is how high it goes will tell you, or comes from, sorry, how long it was in the air. All you need to know is two things actually. The release height, how high the ball was above the ground when you let it go. Because obviously if you released it really high up there and then that's going to change your times and stuff. But if your height's about the same as the other person, if you both release at about 6 feet-ish, then you can figure out from the time it's in the air how high it went. And I think that's kind of cool. So anyway, we'll do that on Monday. We'll gather the info. So bring something warmish like a sweatshirt or something because we're going to go outside probably at the most 10 minutes. But okay, that happens Monday. And that's when we'll really start this lab. Okay, so back to this. This is one of these deals where we have x and something and some other number. Would you try to figure out what goes here and what goes here for this picture? Give you a hint. This is the away number. They're 5 away from 0. Does that make sense to you? Okay, now, I couldn't believe that last hour only 2 kids could make this extension. Let's see if I hope I've explained it better. Because then I asked, then what does this mean? And like only 2 kids knew. This meant that we were 5 away from 0. What does this one mean? Jody?
That we are 5 away from 8.
Yep. The things that are 5 away from 8. How many things are 5 away from 8? Well, you can go 8 above it, or sorry, 5 above it, and 5 below it. So there's going to be 2 answers, right? All right, because I know you've already solved these. Like, you guys know how to do this, don't you? You break this into 2 things. X minus 8 is 5, and x minus 8 is negative 5. You know that, don't you? Okay, it's off the top 20, too. You add 8, x equals 13, add 8, x equals, what's 8 and negative 5? That's 3. There's my 2 answers. And guess what? Those are the things that are 5 away from 8. 3 is 5 away from 8. 13 is 5 away from 8. Okay, and this last one shouldn't be too much of a stretch. What if I say x plus 10 absolute value equals 4? What does that mean? Just what does it mean? Not the answers. The answers are too easy. What does it mean? Fagan, can you do it? The things that are 4 away from... Oh, you were so close. Look at it again. Maybe you never noticed that I changed the sign there. Yes?
4 away from negative 10.
Yes. I had a minus in there before every time. Now I changed it to a plus. It's almost like you can't trust the stuff on the inside. All right, so it's 4 away from negative 10. Because if you put a minus here, then it would be minus negative 10. Now, that's another way to think of it. Or just use the opposite of the inside thing. So it's 4 away from negative 10. Okay, good enough. Now, absolute value of x equals 5. X equals 5. X equals negative 5. Yay. But how about this one? Everybody solve this one, and hint, you're going to want to either combine these two and then get rid of them at the same time, or you can just do 2 steps. Add 1 to both sides, subtract 4 from both sides. Oh, I'm fine with that, whatever. But you got to do a bunch of solving first. But why? In pre-calc, we have to understand more about why. Why should I do that first? Why can't I just split it into 2 equations? A lot of kids do, and then they get it wrong. Because PEMDAS. Do you get that we have to do these in reverse order, and we have to look to add or subtract anything we can, and then we should look to multiply or divide anything we can, and then this one doesn't have any exponents, so I can skip that. And then the last thing I would do is parentheses. But there's no parentheses, but grouping symbols are parentheses, and technically it should be GEMDAS, G for grouping symbol, because when you get more advanced math, it's not parentheses anymore, and it's things like absolute values. Okay? So that's why they go last. So that's why I'm going to start. A typical scenario is you combine like terms. So that 4 and that minus 1 makes a 3. So I'll just scribble them out and put a 3 here. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I get 0 equals 3. And then I divide by 3. Wait a minute, I'm wrong. This is negative 3. I don't know how I was thinking it was 0. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. And then I'm dividing by 3. And then I get negative 1 equals absolute value of x minus 2. Oh, I like it.
Why do you like it? You don't like it.
I like that she said, but you can't do that.
I like that I don't have to keep doing it.
Some of you just happily solved along and you got the answer, but there's no answer for this. All right, why? Because absolute values can't come out negative. Okay, but here's another way to prove that there's no answers, and I really think it's a smart thing to be thinking about. You know, I've got a few rules for math. One is if you can factor it, you should. Another one is if you can clear the fractions, you should clear the fractions. You know, if you can clear them, clear them. Then here's another one. If there's no other way to solve it, You can graph, can anybody finish this one? Yes?
An XY chart.
XY charts are a favorite thing. They're my favorite. They're my best friend in graphing. That's not this one though.
Oh, is it like you put both as negative and then it's like a super?
There's a both involved.
You graph both sides?
Yes, you graph both sides and you see where they cross. I want you to just take 2 seconds and graph this with me. What is y equals -1? That's a line that runs like that. What is the absolute value of x minus 2? Well, that's an absolute value. It's a V shape that's been shifted 2 to the right. Do you get why there's no solution to it? Look at that. They never cross. See how it's kind of handy to be able to graph both sides, see where they cross? All right. So then we can even use this for moments like later on. They're going to do something like this. X squared equals absolute value of x. And you can think to yourself, dang, that's weird. I'm not sure exactly what to do on that. Or you can think to yourself, y equals x squared. I know exactly what that looks like. Y equals absolute value of x. I know exactly what that looks like. I can graph both of them. And I can see where they cross. Can you see that those could cross 3 times? Can you think of any way that I could like stretch it or anything to make it cross only once? There's a way. Now that you know there's a way, maybe I think of a way I could make this problem change so that they would only touch once. Okay. Imagine it this way. You got a V shape. Where can you put your parabola now? So it'll only touch once. Yes?
Could you like really tighten up the parabola?
Ooh, so it would maybe only touch there. By really tightening up the parabola. Yes. That could be called a vertical stretch. That would work. Can you think of another way? Wyatt?
I think the two, maybe there's more, but I think I have 2 other ways. You could stretch the V shape, or you could flip one time.
Oh, okay. So you're saying I could make the V shape like really wide and then have a normal parabola. Okay. All right. Or flip one of them. I like that last one. That's kind of what I was expecting people to say, but you guys came up with tons of ways. All right, so there's definitely ways you could get only one answer. There's also ways you could get 2 answers. And I showed you a way that we could maybe have 3 answers. Is there any way that we could have 4 answers? Do you get when there's curves involved and straight lines? Sometimes the straight line can hit the curve twice. I want you to think this one through. Am I imagining things? Or could we somehow have... wait, I gotta move it down a little bit. I think that's possible, isn't it? I feel like I could get 4 answers out of that. I know I didn't graph it perfectly, and I could be wrong. But if nothing else, I know for sure I can get 3, and I'm not sure about 4. I'm just being honest. I'm not sure if I can get 4. But you know how I'm able to even have a chance of telling? It's because I can make a little sketch. All right, how about absolute values? Say I have 2 absolute values. 1 absolute value on this side of the equation, and 1 absolute value on that side of the equation. Would these 2 absolute values be able to touch? This one's a normal absolute value. What's this one?
1 to the left.
1 to the left. Can you picture that in your head? If I move this one to the left, would they touch?
Yes.
Yeah. Would they touch only once?
Yes.
Yes. Can you think of a scenario where you could make it touch twice? Yep. I like it. Let's say it was like that. Then they could definitely touch twice. There's more than one way. Could you make it touch 3 times? Any way you can think of where we could make it touch 3 times? I move it down here, that's only gonna touch twice. I don't see a scenario where we could make it touch 3 times. All right, we'll see if this sticks in your head or not. The main thing is, you can graph both sides to think about where they cross. Does that make sense to you? Okay, we'll use that again later. All right, everybody go to this slide. And the first one's actually just too easy. Like, that should be like mildly insulting. Same with number 2. Number 3 is pretty easy, but let's do one at least of the easy ones. So everybody try number 3. Teacher in speed mode. Add 5, 3. 2x plus 1. Divide by 3, divide by 3. 2x plus 1. 5/3. I don't like fractions. If you can clear the fractions, you should. Who thought of timesing by... Oh, wait a minute. No, I can't do that. If I times by 3, I'll just get the problem back again. Okay, so I can't clear them yet, but I hope later you cleared them. 2x plus 1 equals 5/3, and 2x plus 1 equals negative 5/3. Now I'm going to do a little bit of clearing the fractions. Times by 3, times by 3, times by 3. Same here. Do I have to do that? Nope. But I think it's faster. 6x plus 3 equals 5. And 6x plus 3 equals negative 5. And now I have 6x equals 5 minus 3 is 2. X equals 3. 6x equals negative 8. X equals negative 8/6, which is the same as negative 4/3. Raise your hand if you had the same answers as I did. Okay. Oh, wait. Some people are concerned. There might be a mistake in there. Tell me if you've got something else, because I could have made a mistake. Yes.
You said that x equals 3 on the first one, that should be 1/3, because you need to divide by 6.
Wait. Up here?
No, on the left side,
Okay. Was I okay at this point?
yes,
Okay. When I split them into 2 equations, was I okay?
yes,
Okay. When I multiplied everything by 3, was I okay?
yes.
All right. Dang, where'd I screw up then?
You didn't divide by 6 at the end.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Divide by 6, divide by 6. And this is not 3. Sorry. I know some of you just followed me there and just wrote down what I did. That should have been a 1/3. Now, I can be sure that that's right. This is one of those tests where it's rare, but you can be like, I know I got it. You know how? Take it back to the original, stick in the 1/3. 1/3 better work when I put it right here. Everybody try that quick in your head. Two-thirds plus 1 is 1 2/3. Or another way to say it is 4/3. 3 times 4/3 minus 5 should equal 0. Something's wrong, isn't it? Yes.
You didn't multiply the 2 times the 1/3, and so you ended up with 4/3.
Dang. Ugh. 2 times the 1/3 is 2/3 plus 1. 2/3. I was trying to do too fast and in my head. Watch, do you see how that happens? It'll happen to you too. 5/3. Okay, and then that cancels and it does equal 0. Okay, so show more work. You'll make less mistakes. I should take my own advice. Show more work, make less mistakes. I tried to skip a step right here and look what it cost me. Okay, here's one. I just want you to tell me how many answers I'm going to get. Sketch it. Sketch it. How many answers should I get? Avery, what do I mean by sketch it?
You put down what you have in your y, so the absolute value is x. You also graph your x squared minus 6.
And I know you guys don't know for sure exactly where that's going to go, but would you agree it touches down here at -6 is its y-intercept, or x equals 0? Okay, and then it's got some sort of a curve up this way, and eventually they'll touch, won't they? Do you get that you're going to have two answers then? Cool. Doesn't tell me what they are, but at least I know for sure there's only two answers to that. I asked last hour, and you can just know that you probably would have done the same thing. When I didn't show people the picture of it first, I asked people, and they were like, oh, there's going to be 4 answers, because, you know, normally these have 2 answers, and normally the kind with absolute values have 2 answers, and so they thought there was going to be 4 answers. But once you start knowing what they look like, and you draw the picture of it, it's easy to tell there's going to be only 2 answers for that. Okay, so how do you actually get those 2 answers? Now we know there's 2. What do I do? Help. Somebody tell me what to do. Well, what do we do when we have absolute values? We split it into 2. Can anybody write me 2 equations? What?
It would be x equals x squared minus 6, and
Notice exactly what we have except without the bars. Keep going.
x equals x squared plus 6.
So close. I would just give you this advice. When you do the negative of this, distribute the negative.
Oh, but I thought it would cancel for the squared.
Oh, but it's on the outside of the squared.
Oh,
We didn't just put it in with the x. You know what I mean?
like -1 parentheses x squared.
Yep, like that. And then that gets distributed, so I'm going to say -x squared plus 6. Now, I'm going to write this whole second equation black so it's easier to like keep them apart. I got the blue equation, I got the black equation, and you might think that they give you the same answer. Let's solve it. Try to figure out what the answers are. I know, a lot of people are like, I'm stuck. I don't know how to solve quadratics. I'm going to subtract x from both sides and set it equal to 0. That's your first step in solving a quadratic. And then I hope, maybe, your instincts will kick in from there. Sorry. And then I subtract 6 from both sides. And I got x squared plus x. Clean that up a little bit. Minus 6 equals 0. Whew, loud. 15-minute warning. And now, please tell me that your instincts kicked in and you knew if you can factor it, you should. Because otherwise, that's like the 42nd time that's come up in this class, right? Doesn't factoring end up being the answer like so many times? That's why it's my favorite thing. Now, should I go -3 and +2 or +2 and -2 and +3 or what do I do? I would first think you got to have a plus and you got to have a minus. Because one of them has to be negative to make a -6. And then I'm going to use a -3 and a +2 because I know I want a negative answer in the end, so I want the negative one to be bigger. When you actually multiply this out, the outside and the inside are what it's all about, and I get -x. Yay. X equals -2, x equals 3. Okay, now I go down here and I get the same exact thing? No, we want the middle term to be +x now. So it's still x and an x and a plus and a minus, but this time we want the bigger one to be positive. So this is 3 and this is 2. And then it's x equals -3 and x equals +2. Did we just get 4 answers? How can we tell if they're all right? Let's put them back in the original. And let's see if all of them actually work. Because, boy, it seemed like we didn't break any rules. I'm telling you, you're going to want to do this on your test. You're going to want to check. Do my answers actually work? You usually can trust that your answers will, but I'm telling you, there's certain times, square roots and absolute values, when you just can't trust them. All right, so let's put in 3. Let's see if that works. I put in 3. Did that seem to work? 3 works. Because the absolute value of 3 is 3. 3 squared is 9, minus 6 is 3. Yep, 3 worked. How about -3? Remember to do this carefully. It's in a parentheses. When there's an x squared, it's like an empty parentheses, and you drop in a -3. All right, so now I got 9 minus 6 is 3. That one works. How about 2? Does 2 work? Yes.
Couldn't we also logically kind of see, since the graph, both of them say like centered on the y-axis, therefore the two answers have to be, like reflections of each other.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. But do you get that if I had checked 2 right here, I would have had the absolute value of 2 would equal -2?
Yeah.
And that's not true. So 2's got to be out. And how about -2? Yeah, it's still going to come out to -2, and absolute values can't come out to negative. So both of those are out. Isn't that kind of gross? Be aware that it's often the case that you can do everything right and you get extra answers that are not really answers, and they're called extraneous answers. They seem like they work, but they don't really work. Okay, so you definitely want to check your answers for extraneous. So here's what you do. You cross them off and you write EXT next to them. Extraneous. Okay, that was what I wanted to get to. You can follow all the rules and the absolute values, and sometimes you get answers that don't work. So anytime I'm doing pre-calc that involves square roots or absolute values, I'm going to check my answers. Hope you do too. All right, here's the part where you have homework. Obviously, some of these are just super easy. When you have things like this, that's when I'd be suspicious that maybe I'm going to end up with more answers than actually work. Not saying that's for sure going to be the case, but I at least check my answers. So if you split this into 2 things, it'd be 3x minus 2 equals 2x plus 7. Remember, the first one you make is just exactly what you see, but without the absolute value bars, right? And the second one you would make would be 3x minus 2 is equal to 2x plus 7, with a negative in the front, right here, and it gets distributed. I did it in red to make it really obvious. And some of you are going to say, but Mr. Server, what about the ones for this? This should also get 2 equations. you know, the 2x plus 7 equals something, and then the 2x plus 7 equals negative of that something. But I would challenge you with this. If these are both absolute values, can you think of a way to make an absolute value and another absolute value touch 4 times? Can you think of any way to do that? So then there can't be 4 answers for this thing. What ends up happening is you just get the exact same equations, but they're backwards of each other. And when you solve them, you get the same answers. All right, is that always, every problem's unique, okay? But I can go to this and say, sketch left side, sketch the right side, think it through, see how many answers could there be. That's good pre-calc right there. All right, so would I do one of those? Definitely. You should remember how to graph an absolute value that's been shifted to the left 4, and you'll be able to get me the x-intercept is where y equals 0, otherwise known as that spot. The y-intercept, that spot, but you could get the y-intercept by setting x equal to 0 a lot faster. And then the domain of these, oh, it goes forever in both directions. Cool. Range of these, it's limited to the lowest it goes is 0. Okay, increasing interval, decreasing interval. Does it have an absolute min or max? Yes, I would want to review that if I were you. This is basically the same exact thing. And this is the challengers. Now instead of equaling 0, it just equals 3. Oh, yuck. But could I graph this and make it into x plus 1 equals negative of x minus 1 plus 3? Yeah, I could. And then I could graph this, and I could graph that, and it'd be 2 V-shapes, wouldn't it? So then I'd know how many answers I'd have, and it wouldn't be that bad, because I've given you this extra tool of think about the graph of the left side and the right side. Okay, this is a challenger, though. You don't have to do this. All right. That's all I've got for you for the new stuff. And we're just going to grade that quiz that we took earlier and then drop it in the Dropbox once it's graded out of 10.